we shall rise again. Sometimes when you're feeling despair, just know that God is still standing there, saying we shall overcome someday. Somebody sing we shall. Let it ring out and we shall. Oh, we shall overcome someday. Well, deep in my heart, I know it get hard sometimes. Yeah. We shall overcome someday. Oh.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Operation Push Saturday Morning Forum at the International Headquarters. Oh, you can do better than that. Of the Rainbow Push Coalition, 930 East 50th Street here in Chicago, Illinois. Our international conference is June 28th through July 2nd. We want you to call us at 773-256-2775. Right now, 773-256-2775. We need your support, and we need you to get registered for the convention. Everybody, you can take your seats. Put your hands together, everybody. It's a great Saturday morning, June 8th, 2019. Tomorrow morning on Reverend Jackson's nationally syndicated radio show, Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, we're going to be talking about the candidacies that are just below the presidential tier. You know, we have an opportunity to get the U.S. Senate in 2020. We have an opportunity to keep and expand the U.S. House, but we're not talking about that. While we should pay attention to the presidential candidates, you've got senators running, you've got state senators running, you've got House of Representatives running, state senators running. The census is up. We're going to be talking about that. So many important issues are on the table in 2020, and we want you to get involved. So from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, KeepHopeAliveRadio.com. If you get your iHeart app, you can go to Patriot AM 1150 or Real Talk 910. I personally want to thank everybody for giving me so much support as I started the Morning Drive show on the largest progressive talk radio station in the country. That's right. Push is on the move. The Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m., 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. We want to hear from you because there are only 6 or 7 progressive talk radio stations out of 2,500 right-wing radio stations in the country. So we've got our work cut out for us. But thank you for your support and can't wait to work with you. How many of you are registered for our convention? I want you to each one reach one. That's right. We need some people to get involved in this convention. We are going to be having a BET town hall meeting. 400 years later, African Americans, at least under British imperialism, were brought into the United States. Since 1619, we've been here at least 400 years. Where were we then? Where have we been? And where are we now? And where are we going? We're going to be talking about that. All of the top-tier presidential candidates have been invited. Most of them have already accepted our invitations to be at our international conference. We are going to have several hundred delegates from the continent of Africa. We want to have you in the United States of America represented. So please, throughout the week, go to rainbowpush.org or call us at 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM, and get involved. Push is your organization. We want to send love to Teddy Gilmore, the owner of Drink House, who has been pulling our millennials together to get involved in Push. And that's right, put your hands together for him. He hosted a First Friday HBCU happy hour yesterday, and it was packed, and we are so excited. I think that's part of the reason, Lady Chris, you were here. We're so glad that you were here. She is a fabulous singer. Was she not fabulous? What an incredible talent. Thank you so much for being with us, Lady Chris. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Calvin Jordan hosted the South Suburban Convention fundraiser, and Citi for hosting our convention business event. But we have just left Silicon Valley, so we've got our people in California, we've got our people in Detroit, we've got our people in Atlanta, in Washington, in Texas. We have people all over the country and all over the world who will be here June 28th through July 2nd. We want you to be here. Our love to our very special Abe Thompson and Governor Pritzker. They have been honored as great, great fathers as we come into Father's Day next week. And I'm going to bring forward at this time a woman who is beloved. She is the highest ranking African woman in our organization. She is a minister. She is so many things. She is a lawyer. She is an educator. And more than that, we can reach, teach, and feel her. She's going to give us our convention update right now. Put your hands together, everybody, for Reverend Attorney Jeanette Wilson.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Santita Jackson, for volunteering to excite us each and every Saturday morning. I am so excited. I know you're getting ready to register for the convention. It's only $50. It's $35 if you're a senior or a student. But listen, you don't want to miss this year's convention. We open up with my favorite day, education. We're opening up with robotics. We're going to be coding. Our young people are going to be competing with Microsoft has a special program. We have a robotics competition. We have an oratorical competition. All day on June 28th, parents and educators will be at the Teachers Union. They can come and see our kids perform robotics, oratorical, and Microsoft competitions. And then we have a labor luncheon, labor union. We want all labor to join us on noon on June 28th at the Chicago Teachers Union. The convention is moving around, so you're going to have to watch the website. You're going to have to write this down. You're going to have to pay attention. We're going to the labor union first, Chicago Teachers Union. It's on Carroll. We want you to see where our teachers work every day, but we also want you to be at that scholarship banquet. Some of you said, I need a scholarship. Well, we've already have our scholarship process has closed. We will be presenting the scholarship recipients for 2019 on June 28th. If you want to know who they are, if you want to see who they are, you need to be there on June 28th at 6 p.m. And the cost is $150 per table, per ticket, $150 per ticket. Why? Because we are raising money to keep our kids, as Reverend Jackson would say, in college. We want to make sure that they get care packages, that they feel the love, and they are celebrated appropriately. Then, oh my goodness, Saturday, you're going to hear from the regional census director, but we're going to have a census breakfast. You want to be counted. You must be counted. If you are a refugee, if you are living in America, you must be counted. She'll talk about how you get counted. She'll talk about the jobs that are available, but it's a census breakfast. Where are we going to be on Saturday? At Apostolic in the morning. Apostolic Faith Church, Bishop Horace Smith's church. You haven't been in the building. You want to be there. You want to be there for the census. And then, listen, I'm going to be in a cap and gown. Reverend Jackson, Santita, we're all going to be in caps and gowns because we're leading our high school seniors into the auditorium, the sanctuary on that Saturday. We're celebrating their academic achievement. We're celebrating their civic engagement because we want every high school senior who's eligible, will turn 18, to register and vote. They're not already registered. We can vote on, they can register in Illinois online. So we will have a major celebration to kick off our voter registration crusade with students. We want every student to be pushing for 2020. Registration and voting. Registration and voting. We're not telling you who to vote for. We're just telling you what you must do to get ready for this right. Then Saturday afternoon, Reverend Jackson wants you to feel comfortable. You want you to be outside. We're going to have Dougie Fresh out at DuSable Museum. We're going to have all kinds of food trucks out there. We're going to have, it's going to be so much fun. So many artists are going to be there. I can't tell you the rest of them because I don't know. I'm too old. Now, Sunday, we back at Apostolic Sunday afternoon. We have our international guests are coming in. We're having receptions. But college students, a lot of you are home or in Chicago for the summer. You working, you're at home with your parents, you're back home eating. Join us for a college summit. We got to get you ready. You got to vote on the campuses where you attend school. Meet us at Apostolic Faith at 3 p.m. College summit, college students only. Whatever college you're going to, however old or young you are. That night, we're going to have the best gospel concert. I know you heard gospel at Fellowship. I know you heard gospel at House of Hope, but you have not heard the best gospel till you come to the gospel concert Sunday night, June the 30th. Monday, it is health breakfast. Winona Redmond is doing a great job. She has a major health committee. Illini Care is doing some things. The sponsorship is going on. The women's Women's luncheon. I know Miss Jackson would have you know, tickets are $150. It's not too late, but the tickets are going fast. She's trying to outsell before we get there. That night is a sports banquet. $150 for the sports banquet. Life Beyond the Playing Field. We're going to honor people in the memory of Kurt Flood, and there's just so much with the sports. All of the coaches, athletes, we need to get your tables now. Then Tuesday morning, business breakfast. Oh, candidate, one of the presidential candidates has been confirmed. Pete Buttigieg is going to be at the business breakfast. You don't want to miss him. He's a mayor. He can tell you about what business opportunities, local governments, county governments, state governments, the federal governments, private sector, public sector, some other special guests. I can't tell you who they are. You got to get your ticket. And then at noon, we're going to close perhaps with the most powerful people that founded us in the first place, the faith group. The clergy luncheon, it's at Apostolic Faith. Preachers, pastors, faith leaders all across the city, the region, you need to join us. I got to go back, Santina.
Don't you love Reverend Attorney Jeanette Wilson? Absolutely. You know, we want to remind you that this is an internationally televised broadcast coming to you from the south side of Chicago, and we are so proud to be able to produce this jewel in our neighborhood. So when we ask you to move into these seats and when we're trying to observe time, it's so that we can let you know that something good can come out of the ghetto. Amen? Amen. Something good and great. And so we thank you, and I thank you for your example down through the years, Reverend Attorney Jeanette Wilson, as I've watched her strive. Let us move forward as we send our love to the people of New Orleans, the queen of Creole cuisine. That's right. Mrs. Leah Chase made her transition. We are sending her love today. Ms. Verona Gunn, the mother of Bishop Dwight Gunn, and Willie Ben Ludden, civil rights fighter out of Dallas. Tell us, put your hands together for them and keep those hands clapping as we welcome. Keep your hands together, everybody. Marilyn Sanders is going to give you information about this census. Do not ignore that form. Be involved if you want to be counted. If you really want to matter on paper, you got to participate in this census. Is that right, Felicia? As I watch you on the U while I'm on radio, girl. Come on forward. Marilyn Sanders, everybody, put your hands together.
Good morning. Good morning. Only 297 days left before April 1st, 2020. This is a moment in time that we have an opportunity to be counted. As mandated by the Constitution of the United States, we should be and must be counted. This census marks the first time that we will have the opportunity to respond online, by telephone, and by mail. So please make certain that you are informed. We are asking that all community leaders and volunteers get involved. The census is important. Over $675 billion are distributed in federal funds from the census count. You count, we want your voice heard, and we want you to participate in the census. Now, the census actually takes place April 1st of 2020, but we are now in the process of updating our mail list, opening offices, preparing by recruiting individuals that will work both this year, in the fall of this year, and work through the next year as we prepare to actually take the count. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity. This is a voice that must be heard. Please be counted. Thank you.
All right, you're going to participate in that census? We have before us, oh, don't sit down. You got to do your thing. We're so excited to have this great, 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 great man of God. Put your hands together, everybody, for Dante Hall.
I'll be quick.
You can do better than that. Come on.
So glad to be here. I'm Dante Hall from the West Side. Don't hold it against me. Don't hold it against me. So happy to be here. Reverend, you know we love you. And he loves when I do this Johnny Taylor song. Do y'all remember Johnny Taylor? Who making love? Y'all remember all that, right? Well, he loves when I do this song called What About My Love. I actually learned it from your music director, where is he? Maurice Mahan. He taught me this song many years ago, and I've been able to go on and just do whatever with it. So I'll just be real short. Turn up the volume. Oh, we already in it. Do they mean anything at all? You got me so in love, I'm too blind to see. Now that you got my love, you don't even come around. That ain't right. Now that you got my love, standing on shaky ground. This is what I told him. What about it, baby? What about the days and the nights we spent? What about the love we made so sweet? You know it was good. Are you sure you wanna live? Think it over, baby, 'cause girl, I believe, I think you just might wanna, you might wanna change your mind. Now that you got my love, you don't even come around. That ain't right. Now that you got my love, stand on shaky ground. Hey, do me a favor, give it up for yourselves. Some important dates to remember. June 28th for the convention. Give it up for the convention. And listen, I got a show coming up June 21st at the June 20th at the Promontory. Me and Tweet and some more. Get your tickets now. What kind of way is that to treat your man? Oh, when I gave all that I never had, you got me going through changes. Apply with you. Before you walk out that door, girl, are you sure you wanna leave? Think it over, babe, 'cause girl, I believe, I think you just might wanna, you might wanna change your mind. Now that you got my love, you don't even come around. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now that you got my love, you have been standing on shaky ground. Hey, now that you got my love, you don't even come around. That you got my love, woo, you got me standing on shaky ground. Y'all ain't ready. Come on, y'all. Do me a favor. Put your hands together. Put your hands together. Oh my. I had a conversation with it went something like this. Before you leave out the door, oh, before you leave out the door, baby, won't you change your mind? I'll do better if you change your mind. Now that you got my love, you don't even come around. Now that you got my love, you got me standing on shaky. Now that you got my love, you don't even come around. Now that you got my love, ooh, you got me standing on shaky. Put your hands together. Put your hands together. Oh my. I had a conversation with it went something like this. Before you leave out the door, oh,
have mercy. 'Cause I need you and you need me. I know we can be happy. Wait and see. Baby, won't you change your mind? Thank you, I'm Dante Hall. That's my time. Thank you so much. Change your mind.
Hey, put your hands together. Wasn't that great? And he didn't even know he had background singers. Lady Chris, Felicia, and me. Wasn't that fun? Oh, put your hands together for Dante. You know you had a good time. Oh my gosh. Amen to that. Oh, I love it. The Honorable Shelvin Hall. I wish you would come forward. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. From the 37th International Reggae and World Music Awards. Come on, you all. Out of Kingston, Jamaica. How are you? God bless you.
Good morning, Operation Push, Rainbow Push, Reverend Jackson. In 1968 and 69, there was a musical evolution in Jamaica when a new music genre came into being called reggae. Its main objective was for equal rights and justice, and as a protest against racism, fascism, and yes, apartheid. In 1982, while working at the Chicago Defender, we started the International Reggae and World Music Awards combined with the Chicago Music Awards. Among the objectives of the organization were to use music as an art form and as a vehicle of expression for the voiceless peoples of the world. Most of all, it was organized for the freedom of Nelson Mandela, an end to apartheid, and freedom and democracy around the world. In those days, the countries, organizations that were openly denouncing apartheid in South Africa were Jamaica with its reggae music, Australia, Nigeria, and yes, the fearless, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson and his Operation Push. With no thanks to the American government in those days. We are in a time now when we must be careful and watchful so the clock will not turn back. Recently, as IRAMA expert and committee members internationally search for that one global freedom fighter who has contributed the most to humanity worldwide, we could find no better person than the untiring servant of the people, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. The grand celebration was held in Kingston, Jamaica on May 11th with representatives from more than 30 countries. Unfortunately, Reverend Jackson didn't allow him to make it. So today, with my wife, Justice Shelvin Louise Marie Hall, on behalf of Martins International, it's afforded us great pleasure to present the IRAMA International Freedom Fighter Award to the most respected Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Thank you. To the officials here gathered, to the guest friends, Betty Magnus, our friend, and each and every one of you, I am Justice Shelvin Louise Marie Hall of the Illinois Appellate Court. My father was the Reverend Dr. Shelvin Jerome Hall, a founding member of Operation Breadbasket, the predecessor organization of Rainbow Push. I have known this dashingly handsome civil rights icon. They used to call him the country preacher. He's urban now. I've known him most of my life.
It was right here at Push, as a matter of fact, that my father, Reverend Hall, who was speaking that day, introduced me to Justice Charles Freeman of the Illinois Supreme Court. And immediately, Reverend Jackson piped up and said, "She ought to be a judge." And from his mouth to Justice Freeman's heart to God's ears, here I am now, 28 years later, 28 years of judicial service. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. He co-officiated over our wedding one early 6 a.m. Christmas morning along with my dad. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. When I became the national chair of all the black judges in the United States, he was my keynote speaker. Thank you, Reverend Jackson, coming to Philadelphia. And then one morbid May, when both of my parents died within 20 days of each other, he was there at both occasions. Thank you so much for being there, Reverend Jackson. And just this last year, he charmed the justices of the Supreme and the Illinois Appellate Court at our Black History program, along with Judge Hill and the Push Excel oratorical speakers. We cannot thank you enough, Reverend Jackson. So for all you have and will do, for all those whose lives you have personally touched, my husband Ephraim Martin and I salute you. We thank you. We love you. And along with all of these people here assembled, we all say, thank you, or as Daddy would say, thank you, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Oh, everybody, put your hands together. It's so wonderful to get your roses when you're living. But you know, something escaped our attention as we bring our oratorical contest. Well, one of our oratorical family, one of our young people. Do you know that this great man who you see before you every week, Maurice Mahan, was the best male vocalist from the International Reggae and World Music Awards just last year? Put your hands together. Best male vocalist in the world. Amen. And we welcome one of our young people. Thank you, Judge Hill, for working with our young people in our oratorical program. It's not a contest, it's a program. And this young man is from the Brookwood Junior High School. Put your hands together, everybody, for Gabriel Gatherite. Come on, young man.
Good morning, Rainbow Push. My name is Gabriel Gatherite, and I will recite The Other America by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. In a sense, the greatest tragedy of this other America is what it does to the little children. The little children have to grow up with clouds of inferiority forming in their little mental skies. As we look at this other America, we see it as an arena of blasted hopes and shattered dreams. There are many people that live in this other America. Some are Mexican Americans, some are Puerto Ricans, some are Native Americans. A lot of them are from different groups. Millions of them are Appalachian whites. But the largest group in this other America, with proportion to its size in the population, is the American Negro. The American Negro finds himself living in a triple ghetto, a ghetto of race, a ghetto of poverty, and a ghetto of human misery. So what are we trying to accomplish in the civil rights movement? It is to deal with this problem of the two Americas, to make America one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now let me say that the struggle today for civil rights and the struggle today to make these two Americas one America is much more difficult today than it was 5 or 10 years ago. For a decade or maybe 12 years, we've struggled across the South with glorious struggles to get rid of legal overt segregation and all the humiliation that surrounds that system of segregation. In a sense, this was a struggle for decency. We could not go to a lunch counter in so many instances and order a cup of coffee or a hamburger. We could not make use of public accommodations. Public transportation was segregated, and often we had to sit in the back. And within transportation within cities, we often had to stand over sections because seats were reserved for whites only. We could not vote in the South. The struggle was to deal with these problems. We made it clear that it was much more honorable to accept jail cell experiences than to accept humiliation and segregation by the thousands of students and adults who sat in at those segregated lunch counters to protest these conditions. They were in reality standing up for the best in the American dream. They were taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy, which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the formulation of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Many things were gained as a result of these years of struggle. Yes, we've made it today, but we still have work to do. I have the honor to present someone, even though it was times, in those times that he looked and he thought he wouldn't make it, he persevered. And I speak no other than Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Thank you, Push Excel, for this great opportunity.
Oh, I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. At the end of this day, you can turn and walk away, but I am somebody. Trying to walk away, but I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. Hey, you can try to walk away, but at the end of this day, sing, I am somebody.
I am somebody. I am somebody. Somebody. Respect me, protect me, never neglect me. I am somebody. My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it. I know I can achieve it. Stop the violence, save the children. Stop the violence, save the children. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Trying to walk away. I am somebody. I am somebody. At the end of the day, you turn and walk away.
Brother Mahan and Lady Chris, give both of them a hand. Brother Lady Chris and Mac Mahan, give them a hand. Bishop Grant, Bishop Grant, Bishop Grant, give Bishop Grant a big hand. Bishop Derek Anderson. Let's hear for Bishop Derek Anderson. Let me express my thanks to you, Dr. Hall, Judge, for such a kind and generous gift for you and your husband and from the reggae community. We fought hard down through the years to let music be a transmission of our culture. We express our pain, our joys, our hopes through our music. Something powerful about it. I want to thank God for you and for your father. Dr. King was in Chicago. Many doors were closed in his face. He had an open door at friendship because he and Reverend Hall had a friendship together. And when I came here, he would embrace me as a student, a young man with children and no place to go. Reverend Shelburne Hall, Reverend Clay Evans, the indelible lock to the destiny of our race and what has happened in Chicago. So much has happened here because Dr. King was here in '66. We came south, north, looking for an urban project. And today you're looking at Dr. King's work. This is Dr. King's workshop. We're still working. We've had 3 senators from this place. We've had 2 presidential candidates, one who made it from Chicago, 5 congressmen, the most judges, African-American mayor, and county leader, and state's attorney, and U.S. attorney, and treasurer, city treasurer, and state secretary of state, lieutenant governor. All this because of Dr. King's work. So Dr. King laid the groundwork for a new Chicago and a new America. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of tension perhaps coming here, Judge Shelburne Hall, because our destiny still lies in what happens in the South. The ex-slave states still have the power to determine our destiny. Something is amiss in the South today, and we're going to be a part of it. Stacey Abrams won the race in Georgia for governor this past year. It was stolen from her, but she's still fighting back. Andrew Gillum in Florida lost by 20,000 votes. You know that was stolen, but we're fighting back. Beto in Texas, now that's an African-American representative in South Carolina, and in North Carolina. Something is amiss in the South. We intend to do a lot of voter registration. And those who listen to me today, you're 18 years old and you have the right to register to vote now. Every high school senior class should come across the stage with the diploma in one hand and the voter card. That says high school seniors should register and vote by graduation. Every college student should graduate, registration card in their pocket. Now, I want to make this observation clear before I bring on Jonathan. One is that there's several thousand homes in the greater Cook County area. You lose your home because of delinquent taxes. Some of you pay more tax than you're owed. You don't know. Someone here from Cook County office of Maria Pappas every day who accepts your money, accepts your information, and because scavengers, they're going to take your house. See, scavengers will take my house. But I come to Rainbow Push and make certain my taxes are paid, or that I receive, in other words, $143 million, and some people, they already owe you. Jack and I, we were owed by $5,000. We didn't even know we were owed the money. So many seniors, children have grown up, left home. Now maybe home alone, maybe infirm, may not get their mail, may not read their mail. Their home can be taken from under them. Please come to Rainbow Push today. Come Monday. If there's any doubt about your delinquent taxes, the people, we call them scavengers. They're waiting to take your house. I want to say about the convention. Jeanette did it. She's all into it. She ran through it so fast. But on 28th of Friday, Joe Biden will be here. At night, Kamala Harris will be over the education dinner. We expect to have Beto will be here. Mayor Pete will be here. Bernie Sanders will be here. Elizabeth Warren will be here. We're going to have a dynamic convention. Register today, just $50 register today. But more than that, volunteer. get involved. There's something for everybody to do. Please sign up for the convention today. I want to bring on now a rather dynamic young man who is our national spokesman, for whom I have such high regard, who is prepared to take our struggle to another level. And he resists preaching, though he's a preacher. He went to business school, got his MBA, he should have gone to seminary and got a degree that I'm trying to make him go to seminary. I said, Jonathan, quit running from the gospel. Jonathan Jackson, go preach.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've told my father I am going to take some classes at the seminary, so give him another round of applause. I, like many of you, have seen the news this past week, and in the spirit of what my father was talking about in 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse, you talk about the men of Issachar, this fighting tribe, this gallant group of men and women. I couldn't help but see the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and in my mind's eye, it went back to 1619 all the way to 2019, and this our 400th anniversary of Africans in the America. When I saw these two great powerful people on the stage for the world, one representing the Great Britain and the monarchy, and the other the industrial might and the financial power, the beacon of freedom around the world, the United States of America. When I see these two great forces that have made capitalism spread, that have opened up industry and markets, that have established trade routes, that have superb military and aircraft, that has circumnavigated the globe, 400 years later, English is the standard language that all pilots must speak. You can't be a pilot anywhere in the world if you don't speak English. The dollar is the largest and deepest currency of any currency in the world. These are the things that the British and the Americans have done. When the British came over here and created their colony, they came over for profit, not for freedom. They sent the worst of theirs to come over here so that they too could rape and pillage. But there was a great group to come out of by way of the Pilgrims, those persons that were earnest, the Calvinists that wanted to give and share. But to see that 400 years later of Africans in the America, with these two great persons representing superpowers, do not mention the Africans in the Americas. I bring that up to you because yesterday was a painful day for me. I had to go to a friend's son's funeral. A young man that's done scaffolding work for me and has done tuck pointing. He was carjacked in a south suburban neighborhood and killed. I've been to many funerals. I heard a man preach his funeral one time, and yesterday I heard a young child sing the Lord's Prayer at his own funeral. If our children knew who they were and how we fit on the great stage of life, they wouldn't think to take another child's life over a car. It's 400 years later. And so if the President of the United States doesn't say it, and if the Queen of England doesn't say it, we need a Rainbow Push platform so we can have our own truth to teach. I couldn't help but think 100 years later, from 1919 to 2019, this is the 100th anniversary of the race riots that started right here in Chicago, when an African-American child was swimming in God's lake and went over a rope and he was stoned to death. I couldn't help but think about on Normandy and D-Day, where the troops were coming in to liberate the French so that they could vote. so that the British could end up having backup power from its former colony, that the persons that were fighting beside them, the men and women, the black men and the white men, was living in segregated barracks, having segregated fountains, segregated toilets, segregated burial grounds. But when the time came, the African American soldiers stood up once again to fight for the greater good. Why is this important? Because Africans in the Americas have fought in every war we've ever had. Our children need to understand this. When I saw the children at a funeral this past month, our children, and God bless them, they don't know. I'm not knocking them. I'm talking to the parents right now. Why don't you bring your child in here so they can learn about our civics and our history? When our children don't have a young child called me the other day. He's not a child, he's 35. And he says, Mr. Jackson, I want to sell you something. I said, that's very nice of you. What do you have? And he told me some gadget for a television. I said, I really don't watch that much television. And I assure you, I don't need any more gadgets, any more channels for television. I have the smallest cable bill, and I have the most complex form of bootleg mechanisms to get every channel necessary around the world. That, I was convinced I can do better than him. I'm not buying any movies, music, but that's not necessary. Here's my point. He wanted to sell me something, and I said, I'm not interested. He says, Brother Jackson, a friend of mine died, and I just need to make some money so I can buy a suit so I can go to the funeral. A 35-year-old man doesn't have a suit, which is the bigger issue, because there's 52 weeks in the year, Reverend Anderson. You ought to have one to go to church sometime. Our children are like being pushed out of our society. On D-Day, what should we know? These African American soldiers had to make a choice where they were relegated to do the low-life duties. But when it was time to go to the front lines, they stood there. And when I see a man that said he had bone spurs, who can't trace anyone in his family's history, genealogy, lineage, back to any war, having sacrificed anything for our country. I think of my grandfather, my father's father, whose name we have, Charles Henry Jackson, who came back from World War II. First, let me tell you how he got to World War II. He had 3 jobs working for one man. Naturally, he couldn't borrow, couldn't own in the part of Greenville, South Carolina he was in. And then one day he tried to talk down to my grandfather in front of another man. My grandfather had a chain of his keys that he had that was the man's to all of his properties that he cleaned in. He says, come over here, Charlie Henry. Boy, I said, come. He says, no, sir, I can't. I got my son here. I'm not doing that. A veteran, a man, a principled man, working a government job and other jobs for this man. Then the man goes on to say, he was so disgusted with my grandfather, he went down to the recruiting office, put his name on the roll to say, go call him. And that's when the government came to pick him up, to put him on the front lines. He was proud to put on the military uniform in spite of it all. But when he came back home into the port of New York, took the train down to Washington, D.C., by the time they got to the Mason-Dixon line, he had to get off of the front of the train. I'm talking about a soldier, an African-American soldier, and had to get to the back of the bus, the back of the train. He had to sit behind the same Nazi prisoners of war that they had just fought in Germany. 400 years, 1619 to 2019. Race riots, 1919 to 2019. 75 years after D-Day. African Americans were fighting for the French's liberation and salvation and their freedom in 44, 21 years before we had the Voting Rights Act in America. I'm talking about 100 years after the Civil War, we still did not have the right to vote. See, American history is complex and it's confusing, but that's the work of the devil, because the truth is the light. History is not complex and confusing. It only gets that way when people start lying. These men had the courage and the character. But when we don't see ourselves on the stage, when our children don't know we are a part of D-Day, that we fought to liberate people for their right to vote before we had it for ourselves. Then there was a 26-year-old student, Dad, who wrote into the African-American newspaper, the Pittsburgh Courier. And he raised the question, should I go to war and fight to be a half of an American? That prompted those editors to think, and they responded. They said, we must have democracy, but we also must have victory abroad and victory at home. That's where the VV came from, for the victory abroad and the victory at home. Now follow me on this timeline. It was 50 years ago when we started seeing African Americans be able to integrate into some of the classrooms, and we had our voting rights. Dad, this past week I had the honor to be in Decatur, Illinois with young Reverend Courtney Carson. I'm loving Decatur a lot. Because it was 20 years ago in 1999 that we went into that school building. This time I went into that school building not with Governor George Ryan, not with you, Dad, not with the sheriff, not with the superintendent that had kicked the child out of school and denied him any sort of education. I went back there with a college graduate, a young minister that's now the vice president of the school board that denied him an education. I want to say thank you, Dad. They said the child shouldn't go. How does this fit into the context? And the men of Issachar, they had the vision. Sometimes it's hard for us to get the whole picture. This is a national day of recognition that we saw on June 6th for D-Day. We fit in on the D-Day. We still need victory abroad and victory at home. We are watching the documentary of the Central Park Five. They will see us. We need victory abroad and victory at home. We've seen our children get kidnapped. We've seen the President of the United States put a bounty on children's head with no remorse, no apology. So when he does it and says, women, you don't have control of your body. You cannot control your reproductive organs. It's the same vile thought and evil spirit. When we see these young children getting shut up, like Laquan McDonald, it wasn't just one person. There was a crew of officers that lied. And they're still on the force. We are working with Mayor Lightfoot, and I must say how proud I am of her and the work that she's doing. And let me put one point.
Let me express my thanks to you for your support across the years. We've been in this building for 47 years. Nelson Mandela spoke here, and Harold Washington spoke here. Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. and Gus Savage and Charlotte Hayes So many people across the years, this has been a kind of refuge, a place from which we launch great ideas. Your movements for action for registration and jobs, and just another building is about to collapse under the heavy, heavy rain and winter this one in Chicago. We need to raise $1 million for a restoration campaign. Churches, please take up a donation for us, individuals. Church made the push. People United to Serve Humanity. People United to Serve Humanity is a tax-exempt organization. This is a Rainbow Push, is a push in effect as a church. We need your support today.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to pound 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Brothers and sisters,
we're convening the family.
A massive civil rights movement. We're going to change our condition.
400 years later, we're repairing the damage done. We invite you to register for the Rainbow Push Coalition Annual International Convention, June 28th through July 2nd. For more information and a complete schedule of times and events, please visit rainbowpush.org.
Get involved with the movement.
somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement. Join Rainbow Push.
You can't go downtown and see a restaurant with all whites and no blacks eating because we haven't had any work. Our children have finished school, graduated, done everything we want, and they're still locked out. And what do some people say? Well, black leadership should have done. The preachers should have done. Jesse Jackson should have done. What are you gonna do? And when are you gonna do it? And why haven't you done anything? I'm looking and seeing these children from all these schools that have closed. Where was our voice when Rahm was on the throne and they were closing the school? I didn't see that many, Rev. In conclusion, my friends, 400 years later, 100 years after the race riots, 75 years after the D-Day, 50 years after we've been fighting to open up these doors economically, 20 years after Decatur, here we are in 2019. We're not going backwards. We have got to go forward. We want victory abroad, and we want those same rights bestowed upon us right here in the country that we've lived and born and that we have built. Dad, when I saw that June 6th, and I thought of D-Day, I saw June 6th, 1966. I saw James Meredith starting to walk down in Memphis, going into Mississippi. It was June 6, 1966. Brother James James Meredith wanted to have a right and a march for dignity in Mississippi. He wanted to prove that he could be free in the United States of America. And there was a sniper laying in the bush, young Norvell, a white unemployed worker, an assassin. He shot that young man who had opened the doors for higher education for Africans in Mississippi. Thank God that Brother James Meredith is alive and well today, but that's a D-Day when democracy was born and became real.
So, come on, put your hands up. People, keep on yawning, yeah. Soldiers, keep on going, yeah. Whoa, whoa, keep on turning, 'cause it won't be too long. Come on, put your hands together. Listen now. Cowards keep on lying to me in my face. My people, yo, don't stop dying. No. Whoa, keep on turning. Oh, it won't be too long. So glad that you let me try again. Last time I never did the whole world a sin now. So glad that I know more than I knew then. We got to keep on trying till we reach a higher ground. I need y'all to help me out with this part right here. Higher ground. Higher ground. Oh, higher ground. Oh, higher ground. Oh, higher ground. Higher ground. Oh, higher ground. Oh, higher ground.
Let's hear it, Brother Jonathan Jackson. Give it to Jonathan one more time, Jonathan. Brother Bahan, Lady Chris, let me make a couple of observations before asking you. I want you to really get focused now on this convention. I want to make 3 observations. Jonathan and I both be commiserated on the past Monday on Memorial Day. Watch this. Soldiers are recognized as significant. Heroes at another level. If we're locked out, we're seen as parasites. Where do we fit? If Memorial Day starts at the Second World War and we're locked in the back of the army, we get no recognition. The first Memorial Day was not Europe, it was America. It was the Civil War. When the South was winning the war to maintain slavery, Lincoln freed us to save him. We saved Lincoln, and he freed us. We were betrayed, but that was the deal. We saved the Union and ended slavery. Go a step further. When the South, in its anger, left white soldiers in a stadium and let them die of disease in Charleston, they buried those white soldiers in a mass grave behind the racetrack, the dog track. Blacks exhumed their bodies from individual graves for dignity and marched around the racetrack 7 times, as Joshua did in the Battle of Jericho. That's the first Memorial Day. Now, either Pence doesn't know that, doesn't understand it, so we should know that. The Bible says, remove not ancient landmarks, mothers and fathers have said. They have another thing, say Reagan gave a great speech about the Battle of Omaha and up the hill. That was a good battle, but they say American soldiers fought with the French, had the right to vote, came back home, fought against us having the right to vote. See, yesterday
is our day. S Day is Selma Day. The first Sunday in March is S Day. We marched up, talk to me something, we marched up Edmund Pettus Bridge. We got the right to vote in 1965. When blacks able to vote, white women could serve on juries. 18-year-olds could vote. We could vote bilingually. So we must, am I making sense to y'all? So the first Memorial Day, was in Charleston, South Carolina. We memorialized the whites who come south to help us. D-Day for us is S Day. S Day is Selma. Let us pray. Oh Lord our God, I want to bless your name. Thank you for watching over our bodies last night and letting us leave our several homes today to come to get informed, inspired, and directed. We thank you for the development of our talent, for good information. Thank you for Santita. She talks to the world every morning. Thank you for Jonathan. And thank you for Jeanette and John and Bishop Grant and those who put their lives on the line every day to close the gap and make America better at home. We thank you for our musicians. Thank you for our staff. Somehow touch us differently. Let's become more dedicated today to setting the nation free. When we move, the whole world moves. We're not the bottom with the foundation. When we move, the whole world moves. And so we fall down. We get back up again because the ground is no place for champions. Amen. I want two things. The convention registration is $50. If you're not registered, please register today. That's my first thing. Register for the convention today. Secondly, the women's luncheon tables are $1,500 a table, and the same is true with the ministers, with the business breakfast on Wednesday and the ministers on Tuesday. If you want to get a table for the convention today, please stand. You want to register. You want to register, stand. You want to register for the convention, stand. You want to register, stand now for the convention. Just $50. If you want to register, please stand. You want to register for the convention, stand now. You want to register, stand now. Stand now. Register, just $50 to register for the convention. You want to get a table, labor, ministers, you want to get a table. Dr. Joanne Roberts, give her a hand. Dr. Roberts, come down, please. Dr. Joanne Roberts, you want to get a table? Come right on down. You need two tables. Two tables. What are they? Two tables for which events? Education. Two tables. Give her a hand. Two tables for education. Judge Hall, you say you're getting the table? What I wish you would do is convene some judges one day soon. When we get to them, they respond. I need to talk with them one day about the convention, the women's luncheon, and the business breakfast on Tuesday. So if you can arrange for me to meet with them, I'd like to make my appeal to them, okay? All right? Any other convention questions? All principals convene the seniors for the prom. Convene them now for voter registration. Our mission 2020, send Trump back to the hotel. It's our mission. Send Trump back to the hotel. Send Trump back to the hotel with his hands clasped together.
Tragedies are commonplace.
Lady
All
Chris.
kinds of diseases, people are slipping away. Economy's down, people you can't get enough pay, but as for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Folks without homes, people out in the streets, and the drug havoc, some say they just can't beat. Muggers and robbers, no place seem to be safe, but you've been my protection every step of the way, and I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me.
If you will please give us a generous donation, then you'll give at least $100. Please stand now. $100. Please stand now. Bishop, come help me collect the money. Bishop Grant. Bishop Grant. Come help me collect the money. You'll give at least $100. Please stand. You'll give at least $100. Please stand now, wherever you are. You'll give at least $100. Please stand now. We need the support. We meet every week, every day, fighting this fight. You sacrifice. You give $100. Please stand. You give $100. Please stand. $50 stand. $50. Please stand or more. Please stand. Please stand. We need your help. Lady Chris, you sure can sing, girl. Sure bad sing.
Thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. It could have been me. Outdoors with no food and no home. All left alone without a friend. Just another number with the tragic end, but he didn't see fit to let none of these things be. 'Cause every day by your power, Jesus, you keep on keeping me. And I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me.
If you have not yet given, please raise your hand. We need your support. Who's over in the across the hall is our sale shop for t-shirts. Who's over in the t-shirt hall now? Bring a few t-shirts over here so you can see what's on sale. Who's in the shop today? Is Patty there? Tell Patty to bring a couple of t-shirts here, please. Give Brother Brian Jones a big hand. Thank you, Brian. Give Brian a big hand. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, sir. Just do it. It's Rich. Tell Patty gives a couple of those t-shirts across the hall. Bring them over.